This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have CJ, the smart guy. And I want to let him tell you more about why he calls himself the smart guy. But the big thing with him is he's a CPA where he focuses a lot on crypto and how to do the bookkeeping around all those different transactions when you're doing this. This is a very new way to send money and to receive money. So has a very, very cool niche, and he has a lot of knowledge and ethics to go along with it. So it's not about just it's the Bitcoin and making money online and all that, but it's also like the ethics behind it and the protection. So we're gonna get into that. But first, CJ, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for taking the time. So let's give a quick introduction about yourself and your company.
Yeah, so my real name is Charles J. Kelly. I'm a certified public accountant based in California. And I got the name CJ the Smart Guy because a lot of my friends, they would ask me, hey, can you help me, with this test? Can you help me with this application? I'm trying to get into college. And so I would help them out. And so I've helped out a lot of people, advance in life. And my mentor, Nipsey Hussle, was like, hey, make sure you choose a name that sticks with you. And so I was like, well, I've been being called the smart guy for a long time, or smart homie, or smart friend. And so I just put the CJ in front of it. CJ the smart guy. It's stuck. And ever since then, I say for like 4 years now, that's been my stage name.
Awesome. Thanks for letting us know that. And you hinted there, you give us something big that for people that know Nipsey Hussle. And he's a big deal. I mean, even though he's not with us right now, he's still a legend that a lot of people talk about, and his videos are still buzzing everywhere. So how do you get that connection? Just so the audience knows. I mean, if they know him.
I mean, for me, it was proactive. It wasn't like I got recruited or nothing. No. In 2008, I was just listening to the music. I'm originally from LA, so I resonated with it. It wasn't until he started talking about crypto in about 2017 that I was like, oh, this is something I got to really focus on. And so I started focusing from his videos, and he created something called Ep690, which is like a platform, or it's like an incubator for people to come in, do their business, network with each other. Think of it like a WeWork, but based in South Central Los Angeles. And so as I was studying for my CPA exam, as I'm, learning crypto, I'm in this area networking with people. And so my goal was to be his accountant. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I passed my exam February 2019. He passed away March 2019. So I never got the sign off. But the actual work that I put in paid off later on down the road. I would say right around December 2020, when I became a part of the Black Bitcoin Billionaires. All the stuff I learned from Ep690, all the stuff I learned from the exam and the crypto stuff, it translated, because he had suggested that we go up to Silicon Valley because the goal of Ep690 was to connect LA to Silicon Valley, to connect the tech hub with the inner city. And so I went up there, I took a blockchain course, met with a couple people. And so it was like, man, I was really a part of that movement, but I never really got a chance to feel a part of it, because by the time I was able to actually, carry my own with my CPA, Ep690 shut down, opened back up for a while. And then when COVID happened, I haven't been back since COVID shut it down.
Okay. Thanks for giving us that story. And I would say that definitely worked out. Definitely you're in a very good space. CPAs are just less and less with time, more are retiring than coming in. So you're definitely on a profession that it's needed in. There's a lot of room for growth, for education, and for impact, which I know that you're all about. So on that note, what are giving the now the crypto winter is kind of seems like it's coming to an end, and we've seen a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. What are some actionable tips or advice you have for people that are either in or want to get into crypto and make the most out of this new wave?
Yeah, first piece is read the Bitcoin white paper. Before you put your hard-earned money into anything, research what you're doing. The Bitcoin white paper is maybe like I think 9 pages long. At least read the first six. The last three get real complicated when they start talking about Merkle trees. But like the first six, you should definitely read so you know what you're getting yourself into. And that should lead to a bunch of new questions because in there, Bitcoin is basically peer-to-peer digital cash financial system without the need for an intermediary. So when you're using an exchange like a Coinbase, you're using an intermediary. Bitcoin was never meant for that. And so you'll learn very quickly, well, why can I transact peer-to-peer? Then you have to know you have to get a network. Then you have to know, okay, well, how do I protect my keys? It'll become instinctual what you have to do. But if you don't read the Bitcoin white paper, you're going to be listening to all the marketing, and listen to the marketing. You'll be very confused and you might get scammed because there's lots of scammers out there. So read the Bitcoin white paper. That's the first step.
Yeah. That's a great advice. That's a great advice to start there and to see what was it really intended for, and then that way you can start discerning what's happening, right? Because Bitcoin's it's a bank basically, right? So then it's like, well, it's not peer to peer anymore and all that, right? So in understanding, I mean, I have safe wallet. I have some couple of coins in there that I got and things, and it's not definitely not a simple thing. You said like it can become instinctual after you do it for a while and you get it, everything just start making sense. But I would say to the audience, based on my experience, to really embrace the learning curve, which is gonna be pretty big, and to have guidance, so that way you're not just overwhelmed with videos and misinformation. So start with the white paper. That was a pretty good advice, and then from there, join communities that you can trust and learn together and ask questions, and then you'll be able to then bring value as you know how to discern different types of information and different types of coins and behaviors, and you can bring something to the table, right? But in the beginning, just embrace that you're not gonna know anything. It's gonna be confusing. It's a lot of little things, but then after that, it gets better, and then you start understanding the big picture.
Yeah, and that big picture is huge. Like, after you start studying the Bitcoin white paper, you'll naturally start to wonder, well, how is money? Like, what is money? I think that's the next question. Is like, what is money? And we could talk about that now. There's 3 tiers to money. Medium of exchange, unit of account, and scarcity. Those are the 3 properties of money. But then look at what's really going on in the real world. Like, some of these countries are coming out with central bank digital currencies. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, they've come out with the digital handbook for these central bank digital currencies. And so money itself is evolving, whether you like it or not. And then Bitcoin is just a part of the digital revolution that's happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, money can be really anything. It's like currency, right? It's a matter of if it's something that people value, that they can trade for something else that they value, right? And that's why like money has become something that it's like a decentralized value, right? Like I can have X, let's say 10 tomatoes, and you have 10 bananas, but then to be able to identify if it's a fair trade, like sometimes there's like the offer and demand, the scarcity, all the things that you said. So then the easier way is like to get it to a centralized thing where we know what the value is determined by the market, and then from there you trade that for other things, right? So that's what really money is, and obviously there's a lot of technicalities, but in a nutshell. So understanding that now everything is digital, it's just a matter of time when we're gonna go all digital. There's the bad thing of now, like if everything is digital and then there's the central banks controlling everything, imagine then, oh, you don't comply to get the vaccine, then you can't use your money because we can freeze it all,
Yep.
right? So and that's another thing that you learn with when you go to or like learning about the reading about the Bitcoin white paper and all that, to understand that having a decentralized thing is the protection. So because if it's tyranny, right, and there's a dictator and they just want to do whatever, the power, and they control everything, then we can become slaves pretty quick. So that's something that's the reason that I was very excited about talking about this topic with you, because I want to make sure that we educate people together, and so that way when things get pushed, like people are educated and can vote and can do a revolution if necessary or anything, so we don't get controlled and enslaved. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Bitcoin is like the peaceful protest, right? Like, instead of going to war, instead of fighting, you just put money into Bitcoin and you relax. Because unlike the US dollar or any fiat currency, fiat meaning there's no intrinsic value in the money. So gold actually has an intrinsic value to it, but paper doesn't. A $1 bill, there's no difference between a $1 bill and a $100 bill outside of the number on it. Like, it's not like your $100 bill is going to generate electricity, 100 times more than the $1 bill. It's not like that. Gold, silver, those have intrinsic value. Paper money doesn't. And so when you have a centralized country or a centralized bank and they're printing out money, that takes away the scarcity, right? Remember, there's three aspects to money: scarcity, unit of account, medium of exchange. And so if they're printing out money, it takes away the scarcity. And we've seen this in a lot of countries in Africa, where if France is controlling their monetary system, overnight, they say, hey, your money is devalued by 50%. So just imagine going to the grocery store one day, a loaf of bread is $4, the next day it's $8. Like, that's a crazy change. Imagine if you had your whole retirement and all of a sudden all the prices doubled overnight. I mean, that can wreak havoc on your entire life. And so when you talk about being slaves to the system, well, there's been a lot of countries in Africa that have been basically enslaved to the France system. And so Bitcoin is one of the ways out of that, because there's no central bank that controls the money. And there's only 21 million to ever be created. So there is no problem with scarcity or inflation or anything like that. And so when we talk about medium of exchange, it's better than gold, because say if I want to do a transaction with somebody in Europe, like to send a gold brick, it might cost more for me to send the gold brick to Europe than it would be for the actual transaction itself. So it's easier just to transact with Bitcoin because it's done within 10 minutes and the transaction fee is typically low. If you use like the Lightning Network, which is like an application on Bitcoin, typically it's almost instantaneous and there's hardly any fee at all. That stuff you got to learn about. But essentially the digital evolution is already here. In the US, the Federal Reserve, they came out with something called FedNow, which allows for instant settlements, which is good. So a lot of these banks now, they're starting to pull back all those bank fees that they were charging people billions of dollars for, because now we have instant settlement, but it's still being controlled by the Federal Reserve or a central bank or something like that. Bitcoin is controlled by the people who use the actual software, and it can't be reproduced. You can't have more than 21 million Bitcoin. So you don't have to worry about being robbed in your sleep like some of those countries in Africa, or like here in the US when quantitative easing happens, when they print more money. So that's why I like Bitcoin. It's a peaceful protest, no guns, no war, just accumulate, keep your cold wallet, keep your private keys, and chill.
So one thing that I don't understand very well. So Bitcoin has a limited supply of 21 million, you said, right? So, but they're still mining it,
Hmm.
right? Like not all of it has been mined, but at
Hmm.
some point it will.
Hmm.
How does that work? And we don't have to get super deep into the tech if it's super complex, but just at least give us an idea. What's mining, and how does that work, and how does that affect the price or doesn't.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So there's 21 million Bitcoins to ever be created. As of right now, we're about 19 and a half million, give or take, maybe 100,000 Bitcoins. And so every day there's a certain amount of Bitcoins that is created. Every 4 years, the amount that's created goes in half. So when you hear somebody saying a halvening is happening, that means the amount that's produced on a daily basis or per block is going down in half. So let's just say that there's 100 Bitcoins that are created every day. That's not the actual number, but let's say it's 100 every day. Well, every 4 years, then that would go down to 50. The next 4 years, that go down to 25. Another 4 years, that goes down to 12 and a half, and so on and so forth. And so the last Bitcoin should be mined around the year 2140. We're only in 2023, but think about that. There's only 21 million ever be created. We're already at 19 and a half. So it's going to take over 100 years for the last like million and a half to be generated, because that halving, it just keeps going down in half. And so whenever you have a monetary system, Bitcoin included, when the supply is not being increased, but the amount of people that are using the financial system, typically um, the value of that asset goes up, because now more people are using it and there's not more supply being created. That would be the equivalent of owning an island. That land is that land. You're not making any more land on that island, but you have more people coming in. That means if you own a piece of that property, you can raise the rates because more people are coming in. It's the same with Bitcoin. As more and more people start using Bitcoin, the fact that you own a piece of this rare, scarce property, the value is going to keep going up. And so every 4 years, historically, after 6 months of a halving, you see the price of Bitcoin go up. But I've never been one to really pay attention to the price, because I don't really care about the US dollar. I care more about freedom and being able to transact peer to peer without having somebody being able to control your money, which is what I believe a central bank digital currency is. So I don't really get too hyped up when the price goes up or down, but my clients do. So, it's a good time for me.
so so if you don't care about the price, I understand that you care about the utility and what it really represents and what it is supposed to be used for. um how do you do for like buy more? Did you just buy every month? Do you just like how do you go around this? And obviously there's always you gotta diversify. And so just kind of let us a little bit into your mind on how do you go approaching this. I mean, you focus on just on
Yeah.
Bitcoin or other things?
Yeah. So the way I look at Bitcoin is I feel like Bitcoin is the money. That's the real money. So I use Bitcoin as my savings account personally. So I keep US dollars, about 45 days worth of US dollars at all times. So my rents are paid, my bills are paid, my business is taken care of, my payroll is paid. But then Bitcoin is my savings. So if I have other investments, if I have stocks, if I have real estate, other things like that, that doesn't change. Um, I just don't keep a savings in US dollars, because as they print more money, the value of your savings is going to keep going down. The monetary, like the numerical number, might be going up, but your purchasing power continues to go down. Imagine if, 100 years ago, you had been like, man, I saved $1,000. That was a lot of money back then. You could buy a lot of things. You could buy a house with $10,000 back in the day. Well, if you had saved that 10,000 thinking that you were going to, buy something later, you take that 10,000 now and you could barely put a down payment on a house. So, if you had bought gold back then, you'd have kept up. You'd have kept up with the value of the properties. I feel as though Bitcoin is the same way. where it's like if you have an asset that's scarce, and an actual product that you can use, like utilization, then I stick with that in terms of savings. But if you want to get into real estate, if you want to get into stocks, if you want to have businesses, I don't believe in putting everything into Bitcoin. I just believe that my savings account is Bitcoin. That's not financial advice for anybody. That's just what I do. And my clients, when they ask me, I let them know, hey, Bitcoin's my savings account. And technically it's not in my name. So technically I don't own any Bitcoin. There's corporations that own Bitcoin.
Like you get the Bitcoin on like under your corporation, you buy it under a corporation. So we mean?
Yeah, you put it under a corporation. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of foul actors in the crypto space. Like I said, Bitcoin is meant to be transacted peer to peer, not through a central entity. So if you have like a FTX or a Celsius or a Novatech, they file for bankruptcy. There might be some fraud in there. When you're an individual, you can't write off most of that stuff. But when you're a corporation, you can. So I've been telling everybody for some years now, make sure you put your crypto in a corporation, because this country is more business friendly than individual friendly.
100%. I mean, that's why I love the accounting and tax space, because it's the language of business, and having people that understand the tax code, how to classify things, how to be proactive, and really understand financials beyond just compliance, right? And that's super powerful, and that's why I love serving clients that are in the accounting and tax space, because it's been very beneficial for me. Sorry.
Good.
I don't know why. I got something in my throat. But so what are some, like talking about these things that that you say to your clients, what are some actionable tips or advice that you have for people, beside start getting educated when it comes to taking action to as a CPA, now that we're talking about accounting and taxes and we're talking about corporations. So maybe talk us to how to do like strategic things. You mentioned have a corporation. Is there any other hack or very important tip that you have for the audience to make sure that they do?
Yeah, I mean, the most simple one, right? Dollar cost averaging, right? Dollar cost averaging, it just means you're accumulating on a continuous interval basis. And so you had asked me how I'm accumulating. So for me, my corporation buys Bitcoin every single day. Whether it's $1, $5, $10, 20, 100, 1,000, whatever it is, it's continuous. And that's good for accumulation purposes, but it's also good for tax purposes, because in the crypto space, there is no wash rule, and you can choose, which Bitcoin that you're selling. So let's just say that you buy Bitcoin at $1, at $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10. And then from $10, the price goes down to $6. Tax season comes. Do you want to sell the one that you bought at $1 and have to pay taxes on that $5? Or do you want to sell the one that you bought at $10 and take a $4 loss and be able to offset that against some other gain that you may have had? And so dollar cost averaging is a huge hack.
Dollar cost averaging. I haven't heard anybody talk about this. And but do you actually have to sell? Do you sell it, or is it like a paper thing? Or just trying to understand. Do you when it comes, like, do you really sell it to make it to have the transaction for the taxes? I'm trying to understand that part.
Yeah, so the rules just changed again. So if you're an individual, then you would have to sell it and rebuy it back, right? There's no wash rule in crypto, so you can't do that in stocks. You have to wait a certain amount of time. But as of right now, there's no wash rule in crypto, so you can do that. If you're a corporation now, you don't even have to sell it, because FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, just said, hey, if it goes down, you can write that down. If it goes up, you can write that up. So every situation is different, but dollar cost averaging definitely helps out your CPA in terms of helping you either lower your taxable liability or increasing your refund. It's just continuously buying it on a daily basis or weekly, monthly, but the more cost basis that you have, the more beneficial it can be for you come tax season.
Nice. So that's why you don't really care because you either if you bought it high, you use it to write off. If you bought it low, then good, you got in good, right? So it's just a matter of just keep buying. That's one part that I've never had someone talked about. So I told you, man, when I met you, I was like, man, we gotta get in the podcast. We gotta do some stuff together for educating people because I know more than most people, I would say, to be honest, and I still don't know much, and especially me being even in the accounting and tax space as a marketer, as a CMO for a couple of firms. It's something that I still don't know. So imagine other people, right? That are not even exposed like I am, and I've seen this a lot in Puerto Rico and everywhere. They're so. I'm like, damn, like all these people don't know even like some other like more basic stuff. And so imagine this is a little bit more into the weeds of money, right? Because it's like the new thing. So thank you, man. Thanks for giving us that. And that's something so interesting, man. Like to be able to like apply this. Is there any so for somebody to make sure that they are able to take this. So you said corporation first, and make sure that you do that cost average something. How's it called? Cost.
Yeah, dollar cost averaging, where you're just buying on a continuous basis, whether it's every day, every week, every month, but it's consistent, whether the price is up or the price is low. You just keep accumulating.
And then so in when it comes to that part, then did you set like how do you determine how much you buy per day per week? Do you change it depending on how the cash flow is going on your end, or do you just have like a low amount going and then sometimes it's higher? Like just kind of understand that.
Yeah, there's multiple factors. Sometimes it's cash flow. Sometimes it's cash flow. Sometimes it's the price. So, for instance, if the price is when it was at like 20,000, you want to try to increase your dollar cost average as much as possible so you can accumulate more when it's lower. So, I mean, I don't do all the trading. I'm not a trader whatsoever. That creates headaches. But I do know if the price is up, like when it was around 50, 60,000, I was like, okay, let's lower the dollar cost average a little bit. So you might move it from $20 to $5. But when it's at 20,000, you might be increasing it to $60 a day. Just however, whatever your finances cover. And then there's times where your cash flow is short. So you're like, okay, I gotta relax on it. And then sometimes like, I got, I'm in abundance right now. So, how do we want to play this out? That's really where a lot of my clients, they come to me and say, well, what's the best situation? Sometimes it's good to map it out over a year and say, okay, you got $100,000, map it out over the year. Let's spread it out like that. Sometimes it's like, well, your next big influx is going to be in 3 months. So let's just map it out for 3 months. Every situation is different. I think the biggest thing is just to continue to accumulate. And as you're accumulating, you're going to be having different cost basis and to keep track of all of those. Cost basis is what the cost that you paid to buy it plus the fees to own it.
That's pretty cool. And then let's now go back to and this is kind of like to kind of wrap it up. Wrap it up. This is before buying Bitcoin, right? There's the education. There's a couple of things that we've talked here to make sure that you do. But my mind goes before anything, you need to make money because you can't even buy it if you don't have money, right? So do you ever get into those conversations with people and like, hey, make sure that you make some money, or even help them to route them to something, and then being able to get on a steady investment so that I don't, oh, I put my money in crypto but I can't pay my bills and then I got to take it out and whatever, right? So how do you navigate those conversations with people?
So that's a great question. There's lots of conversations like that. So sometimes I'll get like college kids that, one, they can't afford me, but they're like, hey, I want to get into this. So there's a couple apps. You have apps like Lolly, Lolli. You have apps such as Fold app. You have apps like S Miles, the Bitcoin magazine. That's 4 different apps where every day you can accumulate some Satoshis without having to work. They also have like Bitcoin games, Thunder games where you can play solitaire, you can play Tetris, you can play like a bouncy ball, and you can get small amounts of Satoshis every single day doing that. We're not talking a large amount. You could probably get maybe 1,000 a day if you're working towards that, which, like I said, in US dollars, that's not a lot. But if you don't have any other way to generate income, that's a very easy way to accumulate. As well as with Lolly or Fold, if you're going to like Exxon gas station, well, when you buy gas, you can get a percentage back in Bitcoin. If you're going to Walmart, if you're on Temu, you can get percentages back in Bitcoin. And so then you're spending money that you've already spent or we're going to spend, and you're getting Bitcoin without having to actually purchase it. So those are some very easy ways. And then I'm a part of a nonprofit called Bitcoin Transformation Community, where we educate inmates about Bitcoin and money and how it works, because unfortunately, the vast majority of people who are incarcerated are in there because of money, whether they were selling weed, whether they were robbing people, whatever it was. Most of the time, people are in prison because of money. Even if it wasn't directly, it might be a side effect. Man, me and my wife were arguing because of some money, and it became domestic violence. Most of the time, people are in prison due to some type of money. And then when you look at how the prison is even structured, the 13th Amendment, they abandoned slavery, abolished it, except if you're a prisoner. And so you have private institutions, as well as you have government-ran prisons where they're profiting off of them. And so they might outsource these prison labor workers, whether it's for license plates, whether it's call centers, whether it's cleaning things up. And so there's money being made off the prisons. And a lot of the people who are in prisons are in there because of money in the first place. And so this is a huge institution that's a huge moneymaker for a lot of people. And other people are being drained their life due to this. And so we go in there and we educate them, hey, you guys were risking your lives to make money that by the time you get out isn't even going to be able to buy as much as what it was when you went in there. You lost 40 years of your life to generate $100,000. Well, now that 100,000 can't buy you a house anymore. And so for a lot of people, that's disheartening. And so we're like, look, you can get into mining. You can learn how to, maintain other people's miners. You can learn about this new Bitcoin system. You can create books. You can educate. You can do all these different things. And a lot of the people in the prisons, they understand alternative currencies more than we do here in the States that are on the outside, because they understand about forever stamps. They understand about, selling cigarettes for commissary, things that me and you don't really think about. But when you're incarcerated, that's everyday life. And so we go in there, we educate them about Bitcoin. Shout outs to Justin Reddick. He's the one who founded the whole thing, as well as Stacey Boyle. She co-founded. And so he goes in there, teaches the people about Bitcoin. And so the people in there have been very happy because they're like, wow, there's hope. Because unfortunately, a lot of people, they get out of prison and there's no jobs for them. But in this Bitcoin space, most people don't care so much because it's like, look, take care of my miners, learn about solar panels, learn about hydro energy, learn about these things, and you'll naturally want to do better because here's hope and here's a blueprint. And a lot of people, that's all they need is a hope and some blueprint. And so whether it's educating them about the Bitcoin mining, whether it's about showing them, hey, there's Lolly, there's Fold, there's Bitcoin Magazine, there's S Miles, whatever it is, we're going to give it to you. And even if you've only generated 100,000 Satoshis are a denomination of Bitcoin. As you are accumulating that, as time goes on, 100,000 Satoshis could very well be enough for retirement. You get what I'm saying? So, I typically recommend every single person own at least 1 million Satoshis, so that, 20, 30 years from now, you're sitting in the right chair. Just like there's 100 pennies to $1, there's 100 million Satoshis to a Bitcoin. So right now, 1 million Satoshis would be about $420. Most of us can afford that because most people look at $42,000. I can afford a Bitcoin, but you can get a denomination. And so I would say that let that be your goal. Try to accumulate as much as you can, put on your cold wallet, own your keys, continuously learn, and you'll be in the right chair when things switch over to a completely digital world.
One thing that you mentioned a couple of times that we haven't got into was own your keys.
Yeah.
And that goes back to ways that we talked before this call. We talk about the thing that happened with FTX and a lot of things. It's like, well, I have all this Bitcoin. I don't want to sell it to be able to use it. Well, let me take a loan against it. But then if the loan was now somebody owns your keys because of that, you don't have control of that, then that's what happens. Like, they go bankrupt, they go whatever. You don't have access to the keys, then you don't have access to the money. So you lost the money. Right. So you just give us a little bit more about what the importance of the keys?
Yeah. So for people who are investors, let's talk about like real estate first. So a lot of people, they'll buy a piece of real estate, and as the value of the real estate goes up, instead of selling it, they'll borrow against it. Because if you sell it, then you have taxes. But if you borrow against it, you have access to capital, tax-free. The interest that you're paying on the loan is a tax write-off. And so, the interest that you're paying on that loan is going to write off the interest that you might be accumulating from something else. Interest offsets interest. And so people want to do the same thing in the crypto and Bitcoin space, where it's like, well, I've got this asset that goes up, let me borrow against it. The difference in this space is, well, if you put up your Bitcoin for collateral, if they own the keys, in theory, they could just take your coin and you can't do anything about it. That's what happened with Celsius. That's what happened with Novatech, where they were saying, hey, we want to generate some money, or we want to take a loan out and we'll give you the keys. Then it disappears. And you're like, well, where's my money? We're dealing for the most part, an unregulated territory right now. The government doesn't own it. Bitcoin is freedom money, but with freedom comes more responsibility. You can't, claim freedom and then, say, well, save me. You can't do that. Like, if you want freedom, then you've got to be able to accept the responsibility of it. And so, my guy, Bitcoin Zay, he says, no keys, no cheese. If you don't own your keys, you pretty much lost your money. And so if you're going to take a loan out against it, there are some platforms like Unchained Capital where, you own your keys, but other people can see it also. So it's maybe like 3 entities, 5 entities have access to the keys. But to me, that's a step up from completely not having any of them. Because as a CPA, I tell people all the time, look, why would you sell your asset? Keep it. Let it keep going up in value. Just borrow against it. But in this crypto space, you have to be very careful and diligent so that you still own your keys. Because some people still haven't got their money from Mt. Gox, FTX, Novatech, Celsius. The list goes on and on and on. Like I said, Bitcoin is not meant to be transacted with an intermediary. It's meant to be peer-to-peer. But if you're taking out a loan, you kind of have to have an intermediary to make sure that the collateral, works out. Like the contract goes into effect. So just make sure you own your keys as much as possible. If you don't own your keys, don't expect to own your crypto.
You don't own your cheese,
Yeah,
And that's sticking with me for sure. So thanks for that. And thanks for all the information, man. I know it's a lot. I wish that we can pack everything here, but I know we can't. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do more content together. I have no doubt of that. I already talked to you about that. Some events, and when I have events, I'll definitely invite you to bring that perspective. And I know that's the route that you're going anyway, right? Like with the thought leadership and getting everything in check with your business. We talk about pretty good stuff, and I'm excited. I'm excited to have a journey to that where our journeys collide, right? Like I'm focusing more on the marketing side and holistic growth and self development, but the things that I don't understand that well that I want to learn more is definitely the crypto. And I have a base, but keep growing in there. So that's why I want to surround myself like with people like you and other people that listen to this. Probably gonna be like, damn, I definitely need to pay attention to this. So what type of people you're looking to connect, and how can people find you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on all social media platforms at CJ the Smart Guy. No extra letters, no extra numbers or punctuation. There's a lot of fake pages made of me, and some of the fake pages look better than my real page. So just be aware of that. I have an event in February 23rd and 24th in Vegas called the Blackout Event, where it's a conference where we'll all be coming together, educating people on Bitcoin, the evolution of money. Shout outs to Lamar Wilson, helping that together. The Black Bitcoin Billionaires. That's the group I've been rocking with for a few years now, about 3 years now. Just educating people around the country. And so, that's probably the best place to find me, social media, or in Vegas, February 23rd, 24th, 2024. So check it out.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time to give us all this value and give us a way to connect with you. I reached out to him, and it was pretty easy to be able to get on a conversation with him. So I highly encourage you to reach out if you have any questions, if you want to diversify and put some investments in crypto, being able to have the bookkeeping taken care of the right way, so it's optimized for tax benefits and for being able, if you get audit, it's not something that most CPAs don't even understand in the beginnings of it, right? So having somebody like this in your corner, I know that I have you. I know I will use you at some point, and also for my clients or my clients, right? Because it's also like as I work as CMO for other firms, I know for a fact that don't understand this because I talk to them all the time. So I definitely gotta bring you up when needed. So thank you again for coming to my podcast.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
So this was CJ, the Smart Guy, and Fu. This is us signing off.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Fu with your host, Fu. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.